So the purpose of this wastewater treatment is just to remove the contaminant from the water so that the treated water, it can meet the acceptable quality standard. Or you can say that just to make a water free from the contaminants or free from the debris or pollutants, so that this water can now be reused for various purposes. So that treatment which ultimately clean the water is known as the wastewater treatment, or you can say which ultimately remove the waste from the water is known as the wastewater treatment. There are generally used method for the wastewater treatment like physical, chemical and biological treatment, and all of these methods, they are depend on, or you can say the method of choice, it depend upon the composition of wastewater. Let's now discuss the wastewater treatment process. So generally 4 processes are used for the treatment of sewage wastewater. These are preliminary treatment, primary treatment, secondary or biological treatment, and tertiary or advanced treatment, sometimes it is also called as fine treatment. So let's discuss these processes in detail. First is a preliminary treatment of sewage. As the name indicates, preliminary means it is the, you can say, first process or firstly employed process. So its main objective is just to remove the solids, like which include plastics, cans, dead bodies of animal, etc. So just to remove these gross solids from the wastewater. So this is the purpose of preliminary treatment. And some techniques which are used for this preliminary purpose, these are like screening, grit removal and skimming. First is the screening. So as the name indicates, screening means in this case we just screened out the solid components from the waste. So it is just to remove, you can say, the gross solid waste like plastic, clothes, etc. from the wastewater. And for this purpose, the water is generally passed through a screener. Screener is a device which has opening to remove the floating material and suspended particles. Means this screener is a device which has a pore, and due to this pore it can remove the floating material and suspended particles from the water. So the process of screening, it can be carried out by just passing the sewage through the different types of screeners. Means we have the different pore size. We generally just passed out our sewage through these screeners which have the different pore size, so that the solids of different sizes can be removed from this sewage water. These screeners are generally classified as coarse screener, medium or fine screener, depending upon the size of the pore, or you can say the size of openings. The coarse screener, or you can say the coarse screen, it has the large opening like 70 to 150 mm, while the opening size for the medium and fine screens are 20 to 50 mm and less than 20 mm respectively. Next, which can be removed, or you can say which can be used for the preliminary treatment, is grit removal. So these grits, these are small non-biodegradable particles which are heavier than suspended organic matters. So they can be removed carefully by regulating the flow of velocity of sewage in the grit removal tank. In this technique, the heavy inorganic material like sand, ashes, they can be removed by grit chambers. And this is just based upon the simple sedimentation due to gravitational forces principle. Means in a grit chamber, the sewage wastewater, it allowed to stand for some time, and due to the sedimentation, or you can say the gravitational force, so the large solid particle, they settle down. So these, you can say, these can also be used with screeners, and they can maybe kept either before or after the screeners. So due to these screeners and grit removal, or you can say grit chambers, so the solid particle, they can be separated out from the sewage wastewater. And next step for the preliminary treatment is skimming. Skimming is the process of removal of fatty acids, or you can say the fatty and oily material from the sewage. So in this method, the sewage water is placed in a tank which is known as a skimming tank. And skimming tank, which is fitted with a baffle wall that divide the tank. Means this tank is divided into 3 compartments with the baffle walls, and these compartments, they are remain connected with each other. You can say these are interconnected. So as the compressed air is pushed from the floor of tank, which raise the air bubbles and solidify the oily and greasy material present in sewage. Means in this process, you just pass the compressed air from the floor of tank. Due to this air, the bubbles, they raise up and they coagulate, or you can say they solidify the oily and greasy material which is present in the sewage wastewater. And then there is a compartment nearby this skimming tank which is known as a stilling compartment. So this material is now pushed to, or you can say transferred to the stilling compartment, where it can be removed either mechanically, or you can say either manually. Means this solid particle, or you can say the with solid oily and greasy material, it is transferred to the stilling compartment from where it is removed. So by this technique, you can give the preliminary treatment to the sewage wastewater. Second is the primary treatment of wastewater. Means after the preliminary treatment, you will move toward the primary treatment, and the primary treatment is aimed at the removal of fine suspended organic solids that cannot be removed in the preliminary treatments. Means it will remove those solids also which cannot be removed in the previous process, that is preliminary treatment. So some technique used for this like sedimentation, mechanical flocculation and chemical flocculation. So let's discuss them. First, sedimentation. So as the name indicate, here the sewage water is allowed to stand in a, you can say, in a pot or in a ditch, and then due to gravity the solid particle they settle down. The tank which is used for this purpose is known as the sedimentation tank, and the solid particle they settle down at the bottom. The size of the, you can say, the process of sedimentation is influenced by the size, shape and the specific gravity of particle besides the viscosity and flow velocity of the sewage. Means viscosity and flow velocity also affect this sedimentation rate. So sedimentation is just simply, you can say, you hold the sewage water for some time and the solid particle they just settle down due to the gravitational forces. Next, mechanical flocculation. So in this case, the sewage is placed in a flocculation tank which is rotated at the speed of generally 0.43 meter per second with help of the rotating pedals. So when the sewage water rotates in a circular motion, so the small size dissolved solids they attach to each other. Means the small size particles, or you can say small size solids, they attach with each other and forms the large size solids, and due to the large size these solids then they settle down at the bottoms and from where they can be removed. So this is the mechanical flocculation. Chemical flocculation, in this case we just add some chemicals which help in, or you can say which coagulate these solid particle, or which are help in the precipitation of these solid particle. Generally used precipitating agent is alum. Alum, it forms the precipitate of aluminium hydroxide, suspended solid attached to the precipitate such that the size of precipitate increase and settle down. Means when the alum is added to the water, so it forms the precipitate of aluminium hydroxide. Now the suspended solid they bind to this aluminium hydroxide precipitate, and ultimately the size of that precipitate now increased, and due to the increase in size this particle they settle down at the bottom and from where they can be removed mechanically. Next is the secondary treatment of sewage. This is also known as the biological treatment because here we use the living organism or microorganism for the treatment of sewage waste water. So generally here you can say it is required for the removal of dissolved and very fine colloidal organic matter. The microorganism or the organism used here, these are like bacteria, algae, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, etc. These microorganisms they just decompose, or you can say they just use the waste present in the sewage wastewater. They use that waste for their metabolism or ultimately degrade the waste. Some techniques are used for this secondary treatment like these trickling filter, activated sludge system and oxidation ditch. So let's discuss them also. First is a trickling filter. So as the name indicates here, the you can say the sewage wastewater, it is trickled over the bed, you can say over the microbial bed on which the microorganism has been attached. So the sewage water, it just trickled over the microorganism attached bed, and when the water it touches the, or you can say it trickled on that biological film of the microorganism. So these microorganisms they start utilizing the waste present within that water and start utilizing that waste, or ultimately you can say you can get the pure water because the waste has been degraded, or you can say it is utilized by this microorganism. So that film, or you can say that microorganism which are attached to that media surface, they are forms a layer which is known as the biological film or microbial slime. Here in this diagram you can see the construction of trickling filter. Like here there is a filter bed which is porous in nature, and on that bed a biological film has been attached. Biological film is just, these are the microorganisms which can degrade the, or you can say which can treat the waste. So from this feed pipe the sewage wastewater is pumped into this trickling filter, and when it returns it trickles over the bed of this biological film and it passes through this biological film, and during its passage the microorganism within that film they degrade the waste, and the pure water it can be collected at the bottom of this instrument, and from where we can get the water. So this is the basic of trickling filter method which can be used for the biological treatment of wastewater. Here if you go into the detail of the trickling filter, so you will find that the thickness of this film is generally 0.1 to 2 mm and it is very rich in the microorganism. So as the sewage water, it trickles through the biofilm, so organic matter, it gets oxidized to carbon dioxide and NO2, that is nitrogen dioxide, by this microbial metabolism. And this oxidation is carried out by the aerobic microorganism, particularly bacteria that are present on the upper portion of biological film. The biological film, it is rich in bacteria. Generally used bacteria like Pseudomonas, Flavobacterium, alkali genes, and in case of algae like Chlorella, Eutothrix and Stygioclonium, these are generally used, and besides this some fungi and yeast also used in the biological film. The type of media, its depth, organic and hydraulic loading, filter staging, recirculation rate and the flow distribution, these are the some factors which influence the performance of this trickling filter technique. Next is the activated sludge system. Here, in this case, the activated sludge, it consists of aeration tank, settling tank and the sludge return system. So at first, the sewage from the primary treatment plant is mixed with the sludge, which is drawn from the previous batch, means it is already activated. So that's why it is known as the activated sludge or return sludge. What is this sludge? Sludge is the population of microorganism. So the pre-used population of microorganism is known as activated sludge because it is activated previously. Now it is activated, or you can say it is in the activation state. So that's why known as the activated sludge. So sludge is nothing else, it's just the population of microorganisms which were used for the, you can say, the degradation of the wastewater. So these activated sludges contain a large number of microorganisms and serve as an inoculum of microorganisms. After mixing of sludge, the sewage is placed in the aeration tank, and in this tank, sewage is continuously aerated for 6 to 8 hours. During this aeration period, the microorganism, they oxidize the organic matter present within the sewage water to form carbon dioxide, water and NO3. After the oxidation, sewage is passed to the settling tank and the left undisturbed, or you can say untouched, for 2 to 3 hours. Because during this period, the sludge will settle down to the bottom, and now this is the activated sludge which can be reused. So this activated sludge can be used as an inoculum for the next batch of the sewage. And most of the sludge is removed and some is returned to the aeration tank for the next round of treatment. Means we can keep using this activated sludge for the next batches, and maximum sludge it get utilized, only small amount of sludge it can be used for the next round. Next, oxidation ditch. So oxidation ditch, it consists of a circular canal which have inlets and outlets, means which have the input area from where you can enter your sewage waste and outlet from where you can get your treated sewage waste water. So in this method, the sewage from the primary treatment is placed in the oxidation ditch and then agitated, you can say, then mixed with the help of the mechanical rotator and then left for the period of 12 to 24 hours. During this period of oxidation, the microorganism present in the sewage, they oxidize the organic matter, or you can say they just decay the organic matter. Finally, the sewage is removed from the oxidation ditch through the outlet, and now after this, it will move for the tertiary treatment, or you can say the advanced treatment. So next is the tertiary treatment, which is also known as advanced or sometimes final or fine treatment process. So in which the all chemical and biological agent, they are completely removed from the sewage before disposal into river. Because as I told you that in case of physical, or you can say in case of preliminary and primary treatment, we use some chemical agent, while in case of secondary treatment, we use biological agent. So these agents should be removed before that water can be disposed into the river, or you can say which can be reused. So just we use tertiary treatment for the removal of these agents, and it involves the following steps like removal of suspended solids, removal of dissolved solids like salts, removal of nitrates and phosphates, and finally the killing of microorganisms. So let's discuss them. First, removal of suspended solids means after the second treatment, there may be some suspended solid within that sewage waste water. So these can be removed by two methods like microstraining and the chemical coagulation and filtration. In case of microstraining, the sewage is placed in a rotating drum filter of a pore size 25 to 35 micrometer, and then drum is rotated. So due to this rotation, the clear water, it comes out of drum and the suspended solid, they remain within the drum. Secondly, in case of chemical coagulation and filtration, so we use the precipitating agent, as I told you, like alum. So this alum, it is a precipitating agent. It will absorb the fine suspended solid particles on its surface in the form of aluminum hydroxide precipitate. And finally, these precipitate, or you can say the solid which are absorbed on this alum precipitate, will be removed by the filtration. Next is the removal of dissolved solids like salts. So various techniques can be used like adsorption by the activated charcoal. Here the dissolved solids, they can be removed by filtering the water through filter containing activated carbon particle. And sometimes we can also use the technique of reverse osmosis for the separation of or removal of dissolved solids. So in this, by reverse osmosis, we can remove the dissolved solids like sodium chloride and microbial cells. Next, the removal of nitrate and phosphate. Because the nitrate and phosphate, they must be removed before discharging the water into the river. Why? Because these nitrate and phosphate, they cause eutrophication. Eutrophication is a process in which a water body, it become over enriched, or you can say there are many or more minerals and nutrients which induce the excessive growth of algae. And due to the excessive growth of algae over the surface of water, so there is a depletion, or you can say a decrease of the oxygen in the water, because they cover the entire water surface. Due to this, there is a decrease in the oxygen concentration, so which is known as a eutrophication. So that's why the nitrate and phosphate, they should be removed before the water is discharged into the river. So they can be removed by using the different microorganisms, like for example this nitrate. It is generally removed by using the bacteria that is known as the nitrifying bacteria. These are like Nitrosomonas, Nitrococcus, Nitrobacter, etc. So these bacteria, they first convert ammonium salts and nitrite into nitrates. Then this sewage is placed into the second tank, which contains the denitrifying bacteria like Thiobacillus denitrificans, Micrococcus denitrificans, etc. So these denitrifying bacteria now converts this nitrate into the nitrogen gas, and that leaves the sewage, because nitrogen is a gas, so it can just leave the sewage waste. So by this nitrates, they are removed. Means firstly, they are treated with the nitrifying bacteria, which convert them into the ammonium salts and nitrite into nitrate, and then in the second tank they treat it with the denitrifying bacteria, which convert this nitrate into nitrogen gas, which just leave the sewage. And the phosphate, they are removed by the adsorption property, or you can say the adsorption process of microorganism, and generally used microorganisms are like Pseudomonas and Bacillus. Now the next step is the killing of microorganism, because you have to kill the microorganism which you used for the treatment. So they can be killed either by chemical or physical agent. Like in case of chemical, chlorine or its compound, they are most commonly used, but the bromine, iodine, ozone, alcohol, heavy metal, hydrogen peroxide, these are also used to kill the microorganism. Physical agent, in case of physical agent, heat, means generally we just heat the water to just kill the microorganism, and we can use light like ultraviolet rays, they can effectively use as a disinfectant. And third, in case of radiation agents, so the gamma rays, they are used, means they are used to treat the water. You can say they are used to kill the microorganisms which are present in the water. So by this step, we ultimately kill the microorganism before discharging the water into the river. So that's all for today, guys. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.